Okay, and it's PLB back with another video. Welcome to the PLB channel. Doing Talking Baseball with PLB episode 2. If you missed episode 1, make sure to check that out. I'll put a link to that in the description below. And yeah, let's go ahead and get into this video. Got a lot of topics for this video. Make sure you drop a like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you get notified whenever I upload a video. And yeah, let's go ahead and get into this video. So, first I want to talk about my favorite team, the Atlanta Braves. They're definitely frustrating me right now, and their pitching is just absolutely terrible. It really sucks right now. They don't have Mike Soroka. Max Fried's pretty much the only worth-a-crap pitcher they've got. Kyle Wright can't pitch worth a crap. Touki Toussaint, one good start and then one bad start, so he's inconsistent. And Fultonevich was DFA'd. Newcomb was sent to the alternate site. Chacin was DFA'd. Tyler Madzik has started a couple games, and he was pretty good until the Yankees game. He was 2-0 with a 0.00 ERA until the Yankees game happened. And it's kind of frustrating because their offense is really not doing that great either, with Ozzie Albies being on the IL, Freddie Freeman also just not really starting off the season very well. And you've also got Riley, who's been hitting not that great either. Swanson's been a bit good. Ozuna's been good too. Inciarte's been, like usual, good in the outfield, bad as far as hitting. Then in right field, you've got Nick Markakis, who, he does the little stuff. That's all you need from him. And the Braves have a really good lineup. And maybe did I put too much pressure on them to be in the World Series? I don't think I necessarily did. I think they can easily be in the World Series. And I didn't. And when I made that prediction, I didn't expect they would lose Mike Soroka. I didn't expect Freddie Freeman would get off to a slow start. I didn't expect Ozzie Albies would hit the IL. I didn't expect our only good hitters would be Dansby Swanson and Marcell Ozuna so far. I didn't expect that when I predicted that. Our bullpen definitely has some room to improve too. Josh Tomlin's been great. Will Smith has looked pretty good in his 2 outings so far. Mark Melanson's looked pretty good as well. And so far the bullpen's not being the problem. It's the starting pitching that's the main problem right now. And I think they can make some moves at the trade deadline. That'll be next week's video. But I think they can make some moves at the trade deadline to possibly get someone that's worth a crap in the starting rotation. Because besides Fried, they have nothing right now that's worth a crap. And we're sending Newcomb and we're DFAing Fultonevich. I know Kyle Wright was a high draft pick, and I know that he was top 10. There were so many other good players in that draft, and that's really a draft bust to me. Obviously, he still could be very good. It's just, he's looking like a draft bust to me right now, and I'm surprised he hasn't been DFA'd or sent to the alternate site, at least the alternate site so far. He really needs some help. And the alternate site for me is just kind of considered as being sent down to AAA, get your groove again, and just kind of, get ready to pitch in big games. So the Braves are definitely frustrating me right now as a Braves fan. It's very frustrating, and I would consider myself close to a diehard Braves fan because I watch every game, and I really like the Braves, but their starting rotation frustrates me so bad because we start off the game and it's almost like our hitting is so good, but it can't come back because we've got such bad starting pitching that they put us in a 3 or 4 run hole already to where it's hard to do much of anything. And when you get put in a hole like that, it's really hard to come back. And then the relief pitchers come in, maybe give up 1 run. So the relief pitchers are doing well. It's just that our starting pitchers are really screwing us up. And yes, you can say it's a little bit of relief pitching. I personally think it's pretty much our starting pitching. And Acuna obviously has not got off to the greatest start either. It could have been a lot better, and I was expecting for it to be a lot better. And a lot of the teams that are supposed to be good, like if we were looking at the 16 teams that would be in the playoffs right now, the Marlins would be in the playoffs, the Tigers would be in the playoffs, lots of other just bad baseball teams would be in the playoffs. And that's why 2020 is such a weird season for all teams, for us watchers too. It's a weird season. Anything can really happen, I think. And see, right now the Dodgers have like 13 or 14 wins and are not even leading their division because the Rockies have been so good. And we'll get to them later. But 2020 is just a weird year, and apparently so far it's just not for the Braves. And you can say, yes, they're leading the NL East, but they still have a lot of problems considering they're leading the NL East. That's telling you that it's been a weak division so far. Obviously, the Marlins have been pretty good. I think mostly it's just the Marlins getting lucky for the most part. And the Nationals, they didn't get off to a great start, which we'll get to in a minute. The Mets are the Mets. We'll talk about them too. And the Phillies, their fourth place team, I said it from the start, and I still go by that. They just have no relief pitching that's worth a crap. I know Hector Neris is going to be your comeback Phillies fans, but that's just not true. And their bullpen is just so bad that it's really holding them back. And I think they could make some moves at the trade deadline. And once again, that'll be next week's video. But I think they can make some moves at the trade deadline to get some relievers that are pretty decent. Obviously, I don't see a great player being moved at the trade deadline. I personally don't see a Lindor being traded. I don't see a Chris Bryant being traded. Definitely not a Nolan Arenado now that his team's doing well and that his starting pitching is performing finally. Obviously, they performed in 2018, but in 2019 they were just terrible. So that's my 2 cents on the Braves right now. Relief pitching's been good, and I think that's kind of what we all expected. Their hitting's been underwhelming to say the least. Acuna, Freeman, both their two best hitters have got off to a slow start. Marquez just joined the team. Ozuna and Swanson were the only ones to get off to a hot start. That's pretty bad for me. Let's go ahead and move on to the Boston Red Sox, and they're definitely having an underwhelming season too so far. I didn't expect the Red Sox to be good. I definitely thought they were a fourth place team just because they don't have any pitching. Chris Sale's out for the season, and Eduardo Rodriguez opted out after he got the corona, and now they're stuck with Nathan Eovaldi, Martin Perez, and Ryan Weber being their best three pitchers. That does not lead you to a playoff run. And we all knew they were going to have good hitters. Andrew Benintendi's got off to a pretty slow start. Xander Bogaerts hasn't got off to the greatest start. Mitch Moreland got off to a really good start for them. Jackie Bradley definitely performed a little better than he did in 2019. I mean, he can't get much worse. Their starting pitching's really bad. I think they could be a little bit of sellers, but also buyers at the trade deadline. But that's going to be a whole different video on my main channel, PLB News. Which teams could be buyers and sellers. I think right now for the Red Sox, they're kind of at the sale, but we also need prospects, so it's kind of one of those. They need prospects that are ready now for players that they have now, like a Brandon Workman, I think, could be traded for them. Maybe even a bigger player like a Mitch Moreland they trade. And I think that's a little crazy, but maybe so. Christian Vasquez could also be traded. He's had a pretty good start to the season. Jose Peraza, I don't think he'll be traded. I don't think any team wants him. And Right field, Alex Verdugo, I think, has been underwhelming to say the least, considering they would have had Mookie Betts there. Um, but he signed a new contract, obviously. No way they're getting Mookie Betts. And it really sucks for Red Sox fans because they could have had those prospects as well as Mookie Betts. But no. And that sucks. I don't think Alex Verdugo is going to be nearly as good as Mookie Betts, and I don't think there's going to be many players ever that are going to be as good as Mookie Betts, just because he's really, really good. We'll talk about the LA Angels next. They've definitely been pretty bad to start the season, I would say. Just have not been very good, and we'll talk about reasons for that. Obviously, Dylan Bundy has been great so far for the season. Definitely what the Angels needed. But when I thought the Angels were going to be in first place in the AL West, I thought that Tehran was going to be a decent starter, a good number 3 for them. And I thought Bundy was maybe even going to be their 4. I thought Heaney could be a okay number 1. Ohtani could be a very good 2. Number 3 would be Tehran. Number 4, Bundy. Number 5 is Patrick Sandoval, Griffin Canning, whichever you want to go with there. And that didn't work out like I expected at all. And I just was expecting more from the Angels this year. Anthony Rendon got off to a very slow start. Andrelton Simmons has yet to play this year. David Fletcher's looked really good in that leadoff hole. I think he's a great hitter in the leadoff hole. Second, Tommy LaStella, he's been decent. Pujols at first base, he is just really underwhelming to say the least. Now we'll talk about the new rookie stud Joe Adele. I think in the outfield he's been very disappointing so far, especially when he let that ball get out of his glove and drop to be a home run in that game versus the Rangers. I think that was very bad. So the defense I don't think is there just yet. I think that his hitting's there. He's got like 3 home runs, 13 RBIs already in less than 10 games. So he's been good as far as the hitting. I think the fielding is going to come, but the hitting is there. The fielding's just got to come. Diamondbacks are definitely disappointing this year. And maybe I was overrating the Diamondbacks as second place. In that prediction, I also did not expect the Rockies to have a breakout season, nor the Padres to start off as hot as they did. And you can say that the Padres aren't doing as great as the Rockies, and that's definitely true. And they're not doing as good as the Dodgers. They are still doing decent. And they still have a lot of prospects that are going to come up. Luis Patino looks really good. Mackenzie Gore looks really good. They have a lot of good prospects that'll be coming up. Luis Capacino is going to be coming up, the catcher, which they definitely need considering Francisco Mejia is there right now, and I think he's very underwhelming at the catcher position. Now we want to talk about the MLB postseason bubble. And the postseason bubble, it's been rumored that there's a couple different places that they could have it. Chicago, you would have the Cubs and White Sox stadiums there, and maybe you would get some other close around stadiums too, or maybe even you could do 2, I don't know. Milwaukee is another destination that is rumored to be in there, and sounds fine to me. It doesn't make a lot of sense that we're going to be playing in one stadium though. And next one's New York. Obviously, you would have the Yankees and Mets, and there's an independent league team there. Buffalo is, I think that's kind of close to New York too. I'm not certain on that. And you've also got California, which I think is probably the most logical spot, even with cases being really high there. It's the same thing with the NBA. Florida's cases are very high. But the NBA didn't seem to care too much. So I don't think the MLB will either. They really haven't seemed to care much that we've had these outbreaks, except they have been tightening protocols, which we'll be getting to in a minute. But I think California is probably the best spot to have it. Obviously, you've got Petco Park, you've got the Los Angeles teams, the Angels and the Dodgers. There, you could probably any California team I think could be a reasonable, range to ride or airplane or whatever to. I think that's definitely reasonable, and I think the California idea is the best idea, and it's probably what they'll go with. Um, the Tigers, let's talk about them. They're surprising everyone this season. Nico Goodrum's been very good, and the reason for I think Nico Goodrum's been good most of his career. Jacoby Jones, he's been really bad his whole career, but he's starting to be good now. Will it stay? Who knows? CJ Cron's been very good for them. I think he's a great hitter for a team that needs a hitter and that it could really push them. And I think Jonathan Scope could also be a good piece at the trade deadline. Matthew Boyd's been very bad to start the season off. Got over a 9 ERA. He's just really been bad to start the season. Michael Fulmer still has yet to pitch in it like a few years. Matt Manning and Casey Mize will be coming up for them. So they have a very bright future, and that's not even talking about Spencer Turkleson, their number one draft pick, who got the biggest signing bonus ever. So they drafted him as a third baseman, which I think is kind of interesting. Miguel Cabrera's been good to start the season, even though I thought this would kind of be his declining season. Obviously not. Next, we're going to talk about Marcus Stroman. He's out for the season for the Mets, and I think this is kind of big for the Mets. Obviously, they still have Jacob deGrom, and if everything goes right for them, then it won't be a problem. But if everything goes wrong, then it will be a major problem. And I think it's going to be a problem, and that's going to be their pitching, just top to bottom. Let's start about the bullpen. Diaz, he's just terrible. Hughes has been pitching very well. Familia's been okay. And who else is in that bullpen? Lugo, not been too great. In their starting rotation, David Peterson had one good start, and then the next start wasn't too good. Porcello is good for one start, and then he's bad for one start. Waka, he's been pretty terrible. He'll be placed on the IL as well. Kind of sucks that Stroman opted out, and they gave up two of their better prospects for him, Anthony Kay and Simon Woods Richardson. Now Anthony Kay is pitching in the bullpen for the Blue Jays right now, and Simon Woods Richardson should be up soon. I know that the Mets are competing right now, and I know they want players that are going to be up right now. But I think they probably should have let the Yankees or whoever, and I know that the Yankees and Mets are rivals, and I know you want to beat your rival, but the Mets are just not a better team than the Yankees right now, and I don't think that's a bold prediction or anything to anybody. I think this is a big move. You lose your number two. Noah Syndergaard was already out for the season, and obviously if they had a perfectly healthy roster, you would have deGrom, Syndergaard, Stroman, Matz, and Porcello. And Waka wouldn't even be in that rotation. Peterson wouldn't even be in that rotation. And you could use them in the bullpen or even as trade bait if you want to get some relief pitchers, because their relief pitchers right now pretty much suck. And their hitting's been kind of bad at some points. Pete Alonso has been very bad, and I think when we started the season, I was like, Aaron Judge had this kind of fall off in his second season. It makes sense that another rookie that had more home runs and was probably a better player in his first year than Aaron Judge, and that he falls off too. And I think in a shortened season and anything that can happen in 2020, I think it just made perfect sense for Pete Alonso to fall off. And is that a crazy prediction? I'm sure. But I think it's kind of meant to be that he's falling off right now. And obviously I don't think he's going to fall off. I think he's going to have a decent season. Obviously Aaron Judge's second season wasn't bad. It just wasn't as good as his first season. And I think that's a similar thing with Pete Alonso right now. But the Mets do have some bright spots on their team. Andres Jimenez has been a really good bright spot for them. I think he could win Rookie of the Year. He just doesn't have a lot of competition right now, in my opinion. Gavin Lux was sent down. Dustin May obviously is a kind of candidate since he would be considered as a rookie. Luis Patino, I think, could be one. Mackenzie Gore could be one. There's a lot of players that could be kind of competition, but right now, and if no players are called up, he has no competition. So the MLB is finally tightening protocols. Zach Plesac and Mike Clevenger were sent home, and I think this is great. I think it's finally about time that we're strict tightening the protocols because you need to tighten the protocols, and obviously you're going to have some people that are just going to defy the rules and not listen to anything. And it's the same thing with wearing masks. And you're going to have people that just don't wear them. And it's, I mean, these days, anything you do will not suit everyone, and it's not going to make everyone happy, and not everyone's going to agree, and not everyone's going to abide. And that's kind of this, and that's kind of what I'm getting here with Zach Plesac and Mike Clevenger. And just why? Um, and um, I don't see why the Cardinals players aren't suspended. I mean, their whole team's suspended right now, but they're going out to casinos. The Marlins, they're going out to some kind of bar or something, which is just ridiculous. Just literally stay in your room. And literally, with all the technology we've got these days, you literally, if you want to go to a casino or if you want to go to a bar, you literally can call up your friends and just do that in your room. Um, just please stay in your rooms, MLB players. And if any of you are watching, please stay in your room. Just one little favor from PLB with MLB News. Um, but I think it's great that we're finally starting to tighten the protocols. Now they will be getting quarantined for 7 days. And I think that's great. It's kind of similar to what they're doing in the NBA with if you leave the bubble or if you go like a step over the bubble, like Rashawn Holmes, he went to get some Taco Bell and he got quarantined for 10 days. Um, Lou Williams went to get wings and had to go in. He couldn't even curbside it and got 10 days of quarantine. And I think that's good for the MLB. And if you're looking at Mike Clevenger and Zach Plesac, that could be missing 2 starts, and I think that's great because I think it's going to make the players realize, man, I should have stayed in the room. And maybe it's a learning lesson for these players. And I hope it is a learning lesson for these players because they need to stay in the rooms. They need to follow the protocols. They need to wear their mask. They need to do this. They need to do that. But they need to just follow the protocols. They're not that hard to follow. Just stay in your room if you're not going to abide by them. And obviously, you're going to have to leave your room to play baseball. But just please, MLB players, just, stay in your hotel room. And you can find something to do. And Patrick Beverly said this about the NBA bubble. He said that the bubble is all of what you make about it. And obviously the MLB's not in a bubble right now, but they're in a similar thing to where you kind of have to be locked down in your hotel room when you're not at the ballpark. Obviously the NBA has set up some activities for these players to do, which I think is really good, by the way. And the MLB obviously cannot just because, like, maybe the Reds and the Tigers are playing one day, and then the next day you have to go to California to play the Giants. You can't do that because you're not in a bubble environment. And obviously the bubble is probably the safest thing. But it's just not going to work for MLB with so many players being on an MLB roster. You've got like 28 players a team. That's not including coaches. So 28 times 30, that's a lot of players, like 720 players. Um, that's a lot of players, and that's not even including hundreds probably of coaches. So you would have over 1,000 people in that bubble, probably, if you look at it. And that's just not going to work. And that's not including players that may be on the IL or taxi squad players that are coming up. None of those. The bubble would not work. I think a postseason bubble is workable. Um, I think especially in California is the best place. Okay, Stanton has another injury and is on the IL. I think he's injury prone at this point. Now we know the Marlins got crappy prospects back for Stanton, but right now that trade's really not haunting them. I think the Real Muto trade is haunting them more, or the Yelich trade I think is really haunting them right now. Especially when you got Lewis Brinson back, a bad prospect who I thought was going to be really good, by the way. Um, I thought he was going to be really good, and I still think he can be. I think he can be an average outfielder, not really, really good, but I think he can be really good or decent, a serviceable outfielder. But Stanton right now, he's injury prone, and once we get to see him and Judge for a full season again, that's going to be great. There's going to be a lot of home runs, obviously. Um, but right now, you can't see him because Stan's injured all the time. Next is Madison Bumgarner's on the IL. Now, he had back spasms because obviously he was not pitching good to start the season. He was pitching quite terrible, to be honest, and the Diamondbacks really are just not playing well as a team right now. You haven't heard much about Ketel Marte. Jake Lamb's just been terrible. Stephen Vogt and Carson Kelly are doing very well as like a catcher duo. Luke Weaver's done bad. Zach Gallen's been pretty much the only bright spot in their rotation right now. Mike Leake opted out. Robbie Ray has been bad. They were better last year when they didn't have Starling Marte or Madison Bumgarner. I think that's pretty sad, to be honest. But that's it. Now we're going to talk about the Rays. Mainly Charlie Morton. He's on the IL right now. And the Rays, their starting pitching is kind of falling apart right now. Ryan Yarbrough, he's not pitching very well. Johnny Trinos is being a serviceable starter. Their bullpen's really surprising me, though, with Peter Fairbanks and Nick Anderson, Diego Castillo. Jose Alvarado, their bullpen, I think, has been really good, and I think it has a lot of potential. That's not even including Oliver Drake, who's closing a few games out for the Rays. And you've got also, who else do they have in that rotation? Glasnow and Snell, they're also very good. So Morton would be more of a loss if that was on a team that he was pretty much the only pitcher that was worth a crap. Like, put him on the Angels. That'd be a huge loss. But it's not too much because the Rays just have such good starting pitching and pitching in general. Jesus Luzardo is our next player, and the Oakland Athletics just in general. And the Athletics have looked really good. Matt Olson's looked good. Chapman's looked good. Mike Fiers did not pitch very well. But as far as the A's, they're looking really good so far, and I think they could be a first-place team, and I don't think that's a crazy pick, considering the Angels have got off to a slow start. The Astros have. The Mariners definitely unexpectedly have got off to a slow start. I'm just kidding. And Rangers have not really been off to a great start either. Next, we're going to talk about a trade, and that's the Astros acquire Brooks Raley, reliever from the Reds. Now, he's only pitched one pitch in an Astros uniform. That looked pretty good, that one pitch. He got an out. Next is the Reds lose some depth in their relief pitching, and they place Pedro Strop on the IL. I think he would probably be their seventh inning man, considering you've got Amir Garrett and Raisel Iglesias for the eighth and the ninth. Um, Now let's talk about the Rockies. They're playing really well right now. I think they could easily be first place. I know the Dodgers are very, very good, and the Padres are still very good competition for them. But I just don't see any team that can take down the Rockies playing like this in the NL West right now, especially with the Diamondbacks being just so bad. You've only really got three teams competing right now that are actually doing good, which makes it a lot easier for the Rockies. Next, let's talk about the Rangers. They've been definitely. I just don't think they've been great so far, and I'm sure there's some reasons, some other reasons, but my main reasons are pitching in general. Now, Jonathan Hernandez has been great off in the bullpen at former Crawdad, and he's been great out of the bullpen. But their starting pitching has been very underwhelming. Now, I know Lance Lynn's been good. Um, Mike Minor has been okay. Corey Kluber is on the IL. I think that's kind of a lose-lose trade at this point, especially if Corey Kluber doesn't do anything. And the main reason why I put the Rangers in third place on my predictions was I thought Corey Kluber was really going to have a bounce-back season. But no. Lyles hasn't pitched that great. Pitched pretty terrible so far. Um, and Gibson, he's pitched serviceable. And let's talk about the Nationals. And there's a real reason why they got off to a very slow start. Strasburg was kind of injured, like he wasn't on the IL, but he was banged up. Scherzer, he was banged up for a little bit. Obviously, he started opening night, but he was banged up a little bit. Soto was on the Corona IL. So with all that, that can get you off to a pretty slow start. Matt Kemp, I think, is a sneaky comeback player this year. He was going to be on the Marlins and wasn't even going to be playing. He would probably be on the taxi squad for the Marlins right now, or even in AAA in a regular season. But the Rockies made the good pickup of getting Matt Kemp, which I think was great. Put him at the number 2 hole ahead of Trevor Story and Nolan Arenado. That's great. You've got Charlie Blackmon, Matt Kemp, Trevor Story, Nolan Arenado, and you can even put David Dahl at number 5. What a great starting lineup right there. I think they could use a catcher, though. Now let's talk about Daniel Bard after making his return to baseball after like 7 years of not playing. That's great, and he looks great right now. I think he's going to be a great reliever for the Rockies, whether he's an 8th inning or 7th inning guy. That's also depending on whether Wade Davis gets his act together or not. He's been pretty terrible to start this season, but Jairo Diaz has been pretty good, and for the Rockies, Sensatella's been good. Lambert's been good. Gray's been good. Friedland's been good. So many pitchers have been good. And maybe their bullpen underperforms a little bit, but their bullpen's looking pretty good right now, and their hitting obviously is going to be good. It's been good while they've been bad, and their pitching's obviously going to be the problem in Coors Field, which is definitely a hitter's ballpark, obviously. Now let's talk about Dylan Bundy. He's been pitching great for the Angels, been giving them quality starts. He's been pitching great so far. AL Cy Young, maybe. Next is, will Francisco Lindor be traded at the trade deadline? And I don't see right now why they would trade him at the trade deadline. I think they have the pieces in place to compete this year. Now, I know the Twins are very tough in that division and not an easy division at all. But I think with the right pieces, I think this trade deadline, the Indians should try to be aggressive buyers and try to get maybe one more relief pitcher, one more starting pitcher towards the back end of that rotation, and an outfielder or two, because outfield help is essential for them. Joe Kelly's suspension is lowered to 5 games after he appealed his suspension. I think this is absolutely kind of ridiculous, to be honest. we're throwing at the back of players' heads. Um, we're mocking them, which I don't care about. I think the mocking's great. I love to see it, and it couldn't happen to a better team. Um, but here's the thing: we can't throw at the back of people's head. And I did a whole video on this on the PLB News channel. I'll put a link to that video in the description below. But Joe Kelly, he's getting his suspension lowered. You just can't throw it at the back head of people and try to risk their lives and risk their career for that matter too. Wasn't it Yuli Gurriel that he threw at? And Yuli Gurriel is a good player for the Astros, and you're ruining his career when he could get big money soon. And I don't think that's a slight over exaggeration by me either. But Yuli Gurriel could get some good money soon when he leaves Houston, if he does leave Houston. And you just can't do that. And also, you've got more than 25 people out just pretty much fighting. And I don't think that's good at all. And the second to last topic in this video is the Raymond Laureano Alex Crolinton, or whatever his name is. I don't know what his name is, and I frankly could care less because he deserves every bit of his 20 games, I think. And Laureano, I don't think he should have been suspended, but a game or two. And see, here's the thing. The Astros are hitting players, but yet they're the ones that cheated. That seems a little screwy to me. Just, saying. That seems a little screwy to me, that we're hitting the A's players. But when you babies get hit, you go out charging the mound of crap. But when you hit players, it's not a problem. I think we need to get in control of that, Manfred. Just saying. You need to hire me as the commissioner of MLB. And our last topic of this video is Derek Dietrich to the Rangers is a sneaky good move, I think. Now, he was on the Cubs, and then he was, released from the Cubs. People forget last season he had, over 20 home runs with the Reds, and he was supposed to be a nobody for them. And I think it's great that he's hitting well, and I think it's a sneaky good move for the Rangers. And watch out for him to hit them a couple home runs, play a good field, and he can be a utility player. And that's great for the Rangers, I think. And I think it's great for the Rangers. I just can't say anything bad about this pickup. It's a low risk, high reward type of deal. And I think it's going to be more towards the high reward. Just because I think Derek Dietrich can be pretty good for them. And yeah, I think that's going to be about the end of this video, unless I see anything else I need to talk about. Yeah, I don't see anything else that I need to talk about. Now, next week's will be the trade deadline video. So make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell so you will get notified whenever that video drops. Make sure to drop a like on this video if you are enjoying these Talking Baseball with PLB, because I had a lot of fun filming the first one and the second one. So if you want to keep seeing more of these, make sure to drop a like. Let's try to get this video to 7 likes. I said 6 likes on the last video, and you guys did that pretty easily. So let's go ahead and get this video to 7 likes. And before I end the video, I would like to say, this is a little message to the Astros. Please get your acts together, please. And this is gonna be a quick message, but here's the thing. Get a clue, Astros. You couldn't apologize for what you did. neither could you take the hitting by pitches. Couldn't take that, and your hitting coach is just trying to stir the pot. And I know everybody in their life has probably stirred the pot once or twice. You know what I mean? But here's the thing. You just don't do that. And Ramon Laureano doesn't deserve much of a punishment for me. Maybe 1 or 2 games. And that's just because you have to punish him just because he was in the fight. And he was the first one that threw punches. But besides that, let Laureano off. And I personally don't think right now the Astros team at all should be playing. And they are. The hitting coach for the Astros deserves every second, every minute, every game of his suspension. And I guess that'll be one of the last trash cans he's banged on for the season. One of the last trash cans he can bang on. Pretty good that one coach is eliminated from banging on trash cans. They didn't get a punishment, so they probably still are banging on trash cans. Probably not this year, though, just because fans aren't in the stands and everybody can hear it. And then you've got the buzzer beater thing for the Astros, which I'll quickly talk about, which is not really news, but we'll talk about it. The buzzer beater, I think they definitely had something. I don't think Jose Altuve is just like, don't rip my shirt off because someone really didn't like it. I think there was more to it, and obviously it's rumors and it could be false facts. But I personally think that there was something to that there was something to that, and I think maybe the MLB should have dived into more of an investigation for that, and I think they should have. Maybe they will in the off season, and maybe the rumors start heating back up about them cheating again. But I just don't. Here's what I say. I don't want to see another time of them just getting off lucky. There's something with the buzzers there, or there was something there. I think there's something there to investigate. Obviously, you may investigate and find nothing, but I think it's at least something to consider. You know what I mean? For the MLB to do, and maybe they don't. Maybe they just don't care, or maybe they're going to let the Astros off lucky like the Yankees, and or that's what they were trying to do. I don't know. Manfred, I think, is the worst commissioner in all sports, and I don't think that's a surprise to anybody. But that's kind of my thinking. So we talked about a lot in this video. Lots of different teams. Oh, and I forgot to talk about this team too. The Blue Jays. Let's go ahead and talk about them. Nate Pearson, he's looked pretty decent through his first couple starts. Vlad Jr. has been very bad, I would say. But Bichette, Kevin Biggio have been pretty good. Teoscar Hernandez really has still not been great this season. Randall Grichuk's not been great just yet. Danny Jansen has not been too great yet. And I think a reason for Vladimir Guerrero's struggle is just because I think he was focusing on first base a lot, and he was just kind of not working on hitting as much, maybe, if that makes any sense. I know it may not make any sense, but I think that's kind of my reason why he would be struggling. Obviously, he could get on a hot streak. And Hyun-Jin Ryu really hasn't done that great so far. Matt Shoemaker didn't look anything like he did in 2019. Chase Anderson, But we'll talk about the Orioles as well. They've kind of fallen off a little bit. Not too much, but they've fallen off a little bit. They got the walk-off from Austin Hayes versus the Phillies, which you just love seeing that. And The Orioles, they're not playing too bad right now, and that's a lot of reason because of Renato Nunez and Austin Hayes. Austin Hayes, I think, is a really good player for the future, whether he is starting in center field or not. But yeah, that's kind of this week's video of talking baseball with PLB. If you made it to the end, you had to like some. So go ahead and leave a like, as well as subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so you will get notified whenever I upload a video. Thank you for watching, and I'll be back with more videos soon.